When Ethan Walker, a widowed single father in his mid-30s, drove up the winding dirt road toward the old property, he didn't know what to expect. The ad had sounded like a scam: cabin for sale, $1. Needs work, sold as is, but curiosity, and his dwindling savings, pulled him toward the listing. Ethan wasn't looking for luxury, he just wanted a fresh start for himself and his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The realtor, a worn-out woman with sharp eyes and a fast-talking mouth, was waiting for him by the gate. She handed him a key without much ceremony. $1, as advertised, she said flatly, as though she had repeated the line too many times. No refunds, no lawsuits. You buy it, it's yours. Ethan frowned. What's the catch? Catch? She gave a dry laugh. Cabin's falling apart, roof leaks, plumbing's dead, neighbors are coyotes and raccoons. Nobody wants it, but legally, we have to sell to the first buyer who accepts the posted price. You're the first sucker brave enough. Ethan almost turned back, but Lily tugged his hand. Her bright hazel eyes, so much like her late mother's, scanned the clearing ahead. Daddy, she whispered, it feels safe here. That word, safe. Ethan swallowed hard. Lily had never really felt safe, not since the accident that took her mom. Their apartment in the city had been loud, cramped, and full of strangers. Maybe this falling-apart cabin in the woods could be the place where they healed. He paid the $1, signed the crinkled deed, and stepped into ownership. The realtor practically ran to her car, muttering something about, "Not my problem anymore." The cabin smelled of dust and pine sap. Its wooden beams groaned as though remembering decades of silence. Lily twirled in the center of the room, smiling for the first time in weeks. That night, as father and daughter lay on sleeping bags on the creaky floor, Ethan heard something odd. A hollow echo beneath him, almost like there was space under the boards. He tapped lightly, and the sound deepened. "Daddy," Lily mumbled sleepily. "Nothing, sweetheart, go to sleep." But Ethan didn't sleep. His mind kept circling that sound, that empty space. A cabin for $1. A realtor desperate to get rid of it. Something wasn't right. The next morning, with a crowbar and determination, Ethan pried up one of the boards in the living room. The wood resisted, but finally gave way with a screech. Beneath it lay a dark cavity, far deeper than a crawlspace. A staircase, old, narrow, and descending into the earth. Ethan froze. His heart hammered in his chest. Lily's small voice came from behind him. "Daddy, what's down there?" He didn't have an answer. But in that moment, standing at the edge of the unknown, Ethan knew this cabin was worth more than a $1. And maybe, just maybe, that was why everyone else had walked away. The wooden steps creaked under Ethan's weight as he descended slowly, flashlight in hand. Dust swirled in the narrow beam, and the air grew cooler the farther down he went. Lily hovered at the top of the stairs, clutching her stuffed rabbit like a shield. "Stay there, Lily," Ethan warned, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'll check first." She nodded, though her eyes followed every move he made. At the bottom, his boots crunched against stone. The basement wasn't built like a typical cellar, it was older, carved directly into the earth. The walls were stacked stone, the ceiling braced with thick timbers that looked hand-hewn. This was no modern construction. Someone had built this room long before the cabin above it existed. Ethan swept the light around. Old crates leaned against the wall, covered in cobwebs. A wooden chest sat in the center, its iron hinges rusted with age. His pulse quickened. "Daddy, what is it?" Lily called down. "Just some old boxes," he lied, though he couldn't tear his eyes from the chest. Kneeling, he brushed away the thick dust and pulled at the lid. It resisted, swollen with age. With a grunt, he forced it open, the hinges shrieking in protest. Inside lay stacks of books, bound in cracked leather. Their pages were yellowed but perfectly preserved. Alongside them were smaller objects wrapped in cloth. He unrolled one and found a necklace, a chain of gold, its pendant etched with symbols he didn't recognize. Another bundle revealed silver coins, tarnished but clearly valuable. His breath caught. Whoever had built this room had hidden a treasure. Suddenly, Lily's footsteps echoed on the stairs. "I'm coming down, Daddy." He turned quickly. Lily, no, but she was already at the bottom, her eyes wide as she spotted the open chest. "Wow, are we rich now?" Ethan smiled weakly. "I don't know, sweetheart. But we definitely found something important." Before he could close the chest, he noticed something strange beneath the books, a journal, its leather darker and newer than the others. The handwriting on its cover read, "Property of Elias Kane, 1912. He flipped it open, scanning the first page. The words chilled him. To whoever finds this, know that what lies beneath this cabin is not meant for greedy hands. Protect it, guard it, or the world will pay the price." Ethan snapped the journal shut, his skin prickling. "Daddy," Lily whispered, "why do I feel like we're not supposed to be here?" Ethan forced a smile, though his gut told him she was right. "It's just an old book, honey. Nothing to worry about." But as he led her back up the stairs, the weight of the journal in his hands felt heavier than gold. Something about those words rang true, and for the first time since buying the cabin, Ethan wondered if the $1 price wasn't a bargain at all, maybe it was a warning. And deep beneath the floorboards, unseen in the dark, something shifted. That night, Ethan sat at the rickety kitchen table with the journal open in front of him. A single lantern flickered, casting restless shadows across the cabin walls. Lily had fallen asleep upstairs, curled against her stuffed rabbit, but Ethan couldn't rest. His hands trembled as he turned the fragile pages. The journal wasn't a diary in the usual sense. It was a record, a warning written over decades. Elias Kane, a name Ethan had never heard before, described himself as a prospector who had stumbled onto the property in the early 1900s. But his words quickly took a darker turn. "I came searching for gold," one entry read, "but I found something far older. The stones speak, the air hums at night, and the symbols on the necklace are not of any man I know. I tried to leave it buried, but men came with money in their eyes. They would stop at nothing. So I built the cabin above it, to guard it, to hide it in plain sight." Ethan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "What stones? What hum?" He flipped further ahead. The entries grew frantic. "They are watching. They know I will not sell. If I fall, may the one who follows understand. This treasure is not gold, not wealth. It is a door, and some doors must remain closed." Ethan slammed the book shut, his heart pounding. A door, the words rang with desperation, but were they the ramblings of a madman, or a genuine warning? Suddenly, a noise outside snapped him to attention. Gravel crunched in the driveway. Headlights swept briefly across the cabin walls before vanishing. Ethan hurried to the window, his breath fogging the glass. A dark SUV sat idling at the edge of the clearing. His gut tightened. Nobody knew they had bought this cabin, except the realtor. A figure stepped out of the vehicle, tall and suited, carrying a briefcase. Even from the distance, Ethan could see the man's sharp, assessing eyes. He didn't look like a neighbor stopping by. Ethan quickly doused the lantern, plunging the cabin into darkness. Upstairs, Lily stirred, murmuring in her sleep. Ethan's instinct screamed, "Protect her." The man outside didn't approach the door. Instead, he walked slowly around the property, like a wolf circling its prey. He paused at the living room window, peering in. Ethan held his breath, crouched low. After what felt like hours, the stranger returned to his SUV. The engine roared to life, and the vehicle rolled down the dirt road into the night. Only when silence returned did Ethan let out the breath he'd been holding. His hands shook as he locked every door and window. He sat back at the table, staring at the journal. Elias Kane had warned of greedy men. Had those men's descendants just come knocking? Ethan glanced toward the ceiling, where Lily slept soundly, unaware of the danger. He whispered into the silence, "Whatever this is, I won't let anyone take it from her." But deep down, he knew, something had already found them. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of Lily humming upstairs. The sunlight streaming through the cracked windows made the night's events feel almost unreal. Almost. But when he saw the journal still lying on the table, the unease returned in full force. He needed answers. After breakfast, cereal eaten with mismatched spoons, Ethan led Lily outside to gather firewood, trying to act normal. She skipped through the grass, her laughter bright against the quiet forest, but Ethan's eyes kept drifting to the driveway, half expecting that black SUV to return. By afternoon, curiosity gnawed at him too much to ignore. When Lily settled down for her nap, he crept back to the basement. The air was different this time, cooler, heavier, almost charged. Dust motes drifted like tiny sparks in the beam of his flashlight. He approached the chest again, setting aside the books and coins until he reached the very bottom. That's when he noticed it, a slab of stone half buried in the floor, etched with the same strange symbols as the necklace. Kneeling, Ethan brushed away the dirt. The carving spiraled inward, forming a pattern that made his eyes ache if he stared too long. He pressed his hand against it. Warm, The stone was warm. He jerked back, heart racing. A memory from the journal surfaced. It is a door. Some doors must remain closed. Ethan whispered, "What are you?" A faint hum rose in the silence, so soft he thought he imagined it. But then it grew, vibrating under his palm when he touched the stone again. The entire basement seemed to breathe, alive with an ancient pulse. Footsteps pattered above. Lily's voice rang out, "Daddy, where are you?" Ethan scrambled to cover the slab with dirt and crates before she could come down. He met her halfway up the stairs, forcing a smile. "Just checking for leaks, kiddo." She tilted her head. It sounded like singing. The words froze him. Singing. Lily nodded innocently. Like. The floor was humming a lullaby. She squeezed her rabbit closer. But it wasn't scary. It was kind of pretty. Ethan's stomach twisted. She could hear it too. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Ethan sat on the porch, staring into the endless woods. His thoughts churned. Was this treasure really money? Or was it something much older, much more dangerous? And if it was, why was his daughter drawn to it? A twig snapped in the darkness. Ethan's head shot up. Shadows moved between the trees, more than one figure, their outlines too deliberate to be animals. He grabbed the rusted axe leaning against the wall, heart hammering. Whoever they were watching. Waiting. The journal's warning echoed in his mind. If I fall, may the one who follows understand, guard it. Or the world will pay the price. Ethan tightened his grip on the axe. He hadn't just bought a $1 cabin. He had inherited a responsibility, one that strangers were already willing to fight for. And under the floor, the humming stone pulsed louder, as though aware its time was coming. Ethan barely slept that night. Every crack of a branch outside jolted him awake, every brush of wind across the cabin walls made him tighten his grip on the axe. He sat in the armchair near the door until dawn broke, his eyes burning but his body tense. When Lily padded downstairs in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes, he forced a smile. "Morning, Bug, pancakes." She grinned and nodded, but as Ethan flipped batter onto the skillet, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. His gaze kept flicking to the windows. By mid-morning, he'd had enough. He took Lily outside and showed her how to skip rocks in the creek that ran along the property. Her laughter rang like bells, but Ethan's ears strained for something else: footsteps, whispers, movement in the brush. He didn't have to wait long. From the tree line, two men emerged. They were dressed in plain outdoor gear, but their posture screamed authority. One was tall and broad-shouldered, with a military cut and cold eyes. The other carried a leather satchel and wore wire-rimmed glasses that gleamed in the sunlight. "Mr. Walker," the tall one called out. Ethan instinctively stepped in front of Lily. "Who's asking?" The man's smile was thin. "We represent an interested party who'd like to discuss the property you purchased. We're prepared to make you a generous offer. $10 million, for the cabin and the land beneath it." Lily gasped. $10 million? Ethan shot her a warning look before answering. "Not for sale." The man's eyes narrowed slightly, but the one with glasses stepped forward, speaking in a smoother, almost academic tone. "You don't understand. What's under that cabin doesn't belong to you. It's historically significant, potentially dangerous, in untrained hands. You wouldn't want to put your daughter at risk." His gaze lingered too long on Lily, and Ethan's grip on the axe handle tightened. "Then you already know my answer," Ethan growled. "We're staying." The tall man's smile vanished. His voice dropped low, steady. "Think carefully. Refusing us won't end well." Ethan raised the axe slightly, his pulse racing. That a threat? Before the tension could snap, Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, pointing toward the cabin. The hum. It was louder now, faint but unmistakable, even outside. The strangers heard it too. Ethan saw the flicker in their eyes, the hunger they couldn't hide. The man with glasses muttered something under his breath, almost reverent. "It's waking." Ethan's blood ran cold. The tall man straightened his jacket. "We'll be back, Mr. Walker. You'll reconsider, one way or another." They turned and disappeared into the trees, their departure as controlled as their arrival. Ethan scooped Lily into his arms and hurried back into the cabin, slamming the door shut. He set her down gently, but his voice shook when he spoke. "Listen to me, Bug. You stay inside unless I'm with you. No matter what, understand?" She nodded, eyes wide, sensing his fear. As night fell again, Ethan sat by the living room floor, the hum vibrating faintly through the boards. He traced the edge of the journal with his finger and whispered, almost to himself. "I don't care if it's gold, a curse, or a door to hell. Nobody's taking this from us. But outside, in the dark woods, more headlights flickered between the trees. And this time, it wasn't just two men. By midnight, Ethan had armed every lock on the cabin, stacked firewood against the back door, and kept the axe within reach. Lily slept upstairs, curled into a ball, but even in sleep she seemed to sense the unease that blanketed the place. The headlights returned. This time 3 vehicles rolled up the dirt road, engines low and steady. Ethan's heart pounded as he crouched by the window. Men spilled out, 6, maybe 7, carrying gear that didn't look like camping supplies. Black duffel bags, cases that could have held tools, or weapons. They didn't rush the cabin. Instead, they set up lanterns at the tree line, pitching themselves like they owned the place. The same tall man from before stepped forward, his voice carrying across the clearing. "Mr. Walker, last chance, come out, sign the papers, take the money. Otherwise, you'll force us to take the cabin by other means." Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. Then, as though responding to the threat, the floor beneath him began to vibrate. The hum deepened into a low, resonant thrum that rattled the dishes in the kitchen. Ethan froze, fear rising in his chest, but not just fear. The sound was calling. Lily's small voice floated down the stairs, "Daddy." She stood there in her pajamas, eyes glazed, as if drawn by the sound. "It wants me," she whispered, her voice not quite her own. Ethan's blood turned to ice. "No, sweetheart, stay back." He scooped her into his arms, but she squirmed, reaching toward the floorboards. The journal's words flashed in his mind. "It is a door. Some doors must remain closed." He dropped her onto the couch gently and snatched up the journal, flipping desperately through pages. Finally he found it, an entry near the end. "The stone is not gold, nor silver. It is a seal. What lies beneath is older than man. The symbols hold it shut. The hum grows when it stirs, when it senses weakness above. Should the seal be broken, the earth itself will remember what it buried. I alone cannot hold it forever. To whoever inherits this place, guard it, even with your life." Ethan slammed the book shut, his chest heaving. A seal. A prison. The men outside began moving closer, their lanterns bobbing. The tall man shouted again, "Open the door, Walker. You don't know what you're guarding. We do, and we're the only ones who can control it." But Ethan could hear the lie in his voice. Control. No. These men didn't want to contain it, they wanted to use it. The cabin shuddered, dust raining from the rafters. Lily clutched her rabbit and whispered, "Daddy, it's singing louder." "I think it's scared." Ethan knelt by her, cupping her face. "Listen to me, Bug. No matter what happens, you stay behind me. Promise." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. He grabbed the axe, stood tall, and looked at the floor as the hum swelled into a roar. The men outside were coming. And so was whatever waited beneath the stone.